Going? Lee Hayward here with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chats. First, well, this one was supposed to be yesterday. I normally do these video chats on Friday, but I had to postpone it till today, Saturday. And this is a make-do video chat today because I'm still not back at my home base, as you can tell. I'm shooting this in my vehicle outside my mother-in-law's house. So the way this works normally is I do my live video chats every Friday at 5 p.m. at home, right? But for the past week now, we've been on vacation, right? We've been on the road, traveling, staying at Airbnbs, and just having a family vacation. And I didn't get back like we would plan to be back yesterday, but things got delayed. Planned to be back today, but through the jigs and the reels, we ended up making an unexpected visit to my mother-in-law's house, which is nothing wrong with that. Hey, got to see, mother-in-law and make your visits and everything else. So we won't be home till later this evening. So I'm here out in the driveway at my mother-in-law's house, piggybacking off her Wi-Fi. Hopefully the signal's strong and coming through loud and clear. And I'm going to do the video chat today. Now, this is going to be a short chat. Normally I go for an hour or more. Today, I'm going to go for about a half an hour, and I've got a bunch of questions that already came through from when I made the notification yesterday saying how today's video chat was going to be postponed until today. So I got a bunch of questions that came through from yesterday that I will be addressing. But for those of you who are watching live right now, if you have any questions or topics of discussion that you would like to have covered, feel free to post those into the chat window there, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out over the course of our chat today. And for those of you who are regulars to the chat, you know how this works. For those of you who are brand new, I want to welcome you. It's always nice to have new people tuning in. And the way this works is I'm going to be basically hanging out here and answering your questions that you have about fitness and nutrition. So anything that you want to discuss when it comes to building muscle, losing fat, workout and nutrition strategies, anything like that, challenges with working around training or injuries or all that kind of stuff, feel free to post those questions or topics of discussion into the chat window, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out over the course of our chat today. All right. So feel free to do that. And while you're doing that, posting your questions and topics, I'm going to address some that came through yesterday. So this one, let's see here now, just a second. I'm going to make sure that this is coming through loud and clear on my end. And again, there we go. For those of you who are tuning in, if you can hear me and see me, and if this is coming through loud and clear, please let me know. Hopefully the Wi-Fi works well, all right, because I was notified by my mother-in-law that she was having some issues with her internet over the past couple days. So fingers crossed for the next 30 minutes or so, we have a strong internet signal. All right, got a question here from William, and he says, thanks for the information on the Q&A for Saturday. I've been wondering how a lot of inmates get so jacked for... I know they have a lot of free time. They do body weight exercises and free weight exercises, and they get lots of time for rest and recovery and sleep. But I know nutrition is very important for building muscle. I don't think they get a lot of nutritional food from a bodybuilding perspective in prison. So how do inmates get so huge? All right, this is a good question, and I've had this question come through from people before. Like, how do prison inmates get so big and muscular and jacked? And first off, what most of us are viewing, our opinion of prison inmates who are big, ripped, and jacked, we're watching TV, we're watching movies, they're glamorizing it. Like, they're hiring bodybuilders to play inmates in prison. Like, that is the exception and not the rule. Like, if you were to go into a real prison and look at real people, they would look a lot like normal people in a normal population. I mean, it's not like you have world-class bodybuilders in prison, right? Now, with that being said, of course, there are going to be some exceptions, right? You are going to have some genetic freaks out there who are in really good shape. And plus the fact that they do have fitness facilities in most prisons, and they encourage inmates to take advantage of that. it does help, right? Obviously they're working out and it gives them something to do. It gives them, opportunity to burn off all that pent up energy in a healthy and productive way versus, being versus an unproductive way. Like, it's a good stress relief outlet for everybody, whether you're a normal person or if you're in prison or wherever. It's a great outlet and it's a very productive one. So obviously the workouts themselves is definitely going to help, but you're not going to see, it's not as glamorized as what we see in the movies, right? And I think that's where your vision of prison, I mean, is you're looking at what you see in TV and movies and all that kind of stuff, and most people are not really like that in real life. Now, with that being said, of course, there's going to be some exceptions to the rule, right? There's going to be, the oddity out there. Like, prime example, I know Cali Muscle. For those of you who are following YouTube, you've probably heard of Cali Muscle before. He's got a massive YouTube channel, massive following. He was in prison at one time, but like, he's the exception, not the rule. Like, even in normal everyday gym situations and even among elite level bodybuilders, like, he is the exception and not the rule. He's a very big guy and in an amazing shape, but like, that is the exception and not the rule. Like, most people just don't have the genetic potential to build that kind of muscle mass on their frame, regardless of how much they train or work out or whatever. So I think we're kind of having a skewed vision of that. Now, with that being said, if you have the opportunity to endless workouts, like unlimited workouts, I should say, and adequate rest and all that kind of stuff, that is a huge piece of the puzzle. So, I mean, that's going to make a big chunk into your bodybuilding progress. The nutrition side of things, obviously it's important, but you can still make gains as long as you're eating enough, even if it's not optimal food. Like, proper nutrition really comes into play when you're looking at fat loss, right? Burning body fats, that's where nutrition really plays a huge role. But from simply building muscle, fueling the workouts, as long as you're eating enough total calories, even if it's not the super clean calories, you can still make pretty good progress. And this is where a lot of average guys fall into. Like, a lot of guys, you go into most gyms and you'll see guys who are big. I mean, they're working out. They love to work out. And they'll also, they love to eat, right? So as long as you have enough food, you can actually make some really good progress. And it's not going to necessarily be optimal from a fat loss point of view, but it can help to fuel the workouts, and you can build some muscle in that situation. Even though it's not optimal, it's still good enough. And that's what you need to think of, is like the bigger picture. Like, sometimes people make progress in spite of things and not because of things, right? So, I mean, like, they're making progress in spite of inadequate or inoptimal nutrition, if that's a word. I don't know. Suboptimal nutrition, that's the word I'm looking for. Suboptimal nutrition. They're making progress in spite of that, not because of that. So hopefully that helps to clarify that question from William. Another one here. This one's from AJ. He says, I'm leaving you a question for tomorrow's Q&A. As you go on a cut and lose weight, just a second. As you go on a cut and lose weight, what advice would you give on trying to maintain as much strength as possible? I've lost about 20 pounds and have lost quite a bit of strength. I currently work in a more hypertrophic rep range, 8 reps on my compound lifts. All right, great question. Anytime you go on a cut to try and lose weight, you are going to lose some strength, especially in your big compound lifts, like your squat, your bench, your deadlift, your rows, your overhead presses, those type of exercises, the big, heavy compound lifts, especially when you're lifting heavy weight and low repetitions. And in my opinion, anything under 10 reps is heavy weight and low repetitions from a bodybuilding standpoint. You're going to see your strength drop, because the more weight you have on, the stronger you're going to be. Even if that weight is not all lean mass, like even if it's some water and fat and just bloat, that water, fat, and bloat can actually help to make you stronger. Right? It gives you more mass, especially in those big compound lifts. And anytime you drop that and also enter a calorie deficit, now you don't have the, your glycogen stores are not topped up. That's going to hinder your strength. So in that initial phase, you will lose some strength. Now, this is the way it usually works for a lot of people. And I always noticed this, especially when I was competing in bodybuilding. In the first phase of a fat loss program, your strength is going to drop. Once you settle into that and you start to get used to being leaner and lighter, and your body starts to adapt to that new body weight, you can actually start to make strength gains again. As provided, you're eating properly, you're fueling, and you're resting, and all that kind of stuff. You can start to make strength gains at this new lighter body weight, and you can actually start to build your strength back up a bit. But it may not be the same as it was when you were at your heaviest weight, your bulked up heaviest, your off season weight, if you will, whatever you want to call it. So that's pretty normal for a lot of people. But the big one that you want to focus on is not losing weight too quickly, like slow, steady progress, and not creating a big calorie deficit. One of the biggest reasons why people lose strength when they go on a cut is because, one, they create too big of a calorie deficit. Very often they're cutting carbs. And when you're in a calorie deficit, your carbs are low, your energy just down the toilet, right? It's just going to tank. So that's a big reason why people lose a lot of strength. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your calories in a very slight deficit, not a big drastic deficit. I mean, no, I wouldn't go any more than 500 calorie a day deficit. Like, start off small. And a good benchmark, like, a lot of people, this is kind of brings up a subtopic here. A lot of people wonder, like, how many calories should I eat when I'm trying to train for fat loss? Just start by monitoring how much you're eating right now in a normal situation. Like, just kind of record your food and see how much you're eating, and just make small improvements from there. Don't go on a drastic cut. Like, don't go from eating whatever the hell you want to say, like, I'm going to go on some low carb, ketogenic diet, one meal a day, blah, 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 and just try and starve the fat. Like, just focus on being a little better than you were before, right? Small progress. So, like, if you're currently, like, I'll give you some prime examples of, like, real world strategies. Like, maybe your first action step from a fat loss point of view could be to skip dessert. Like, eat your normal meals, just skip the dessert afterwards. Or maybe it could be eat your normal meals, but skip drinking on the weekends, cut out the alcohol consumption. Maybe it could be eat your normal meals, but just cut out, eating potato chips late at night while you're watching TV. Like, it could be small little baby steps of progress, stuff that you should be doing anyway, but it doesn't have to be like going from eating everything and anything to boiled chicken and broccoli and starving yourself. Like, small baby steps of progress. And just that little baby step of progress will start the process of helping you to burn more body fat. And then, of course, you can optimize that with proper training, start to bump up your cardio, be more active throughout the day. And that will help to create a bigger calorie deficit. And then just baby step it. So, like, once you start to see some progress with that, then keep doing that until it starts to plateau. When it plateaus, then look for some other areas where you can optimize it and other areas where you can improve. And just keep going through that process in an incremental fashion like that. So that's what I would recommend. All right. As far as, we got the kids out there playing and tapping on the windows here. That's the reason I came out in the vehicle to begin with, because the kids were in the house running around, and I said it'd be too noisy in the house. And now that they know I'm out here doing this, they're out here trying to distract me. So anyway, if you see anybody jumping up at the windows, it's Harvey and his cousin. They're playing. What else have we got there? He's losing strength, blah, blah, blah. So what I would recommend is don't go too drastic with your calorie cut there, AJ. And another strategy that can definitely help as well is, before your workouts, if you're feeling weak, purposely eat before you train. Like, have a good pre-workout meal an hour or so before you train, so that you have some energy to run on. A big mistake that a lot of people make, and I used to make this mistake myself, is always trying to do fasted workouts thinking that it's going to help speed up fat loss. And, you could argue, okay, yeah, you're going to burn more body fat in a fasted state, but your strength and energy is going to go down the toilet because you're literally running on empty. So I always find that if I fuel the machine first and I have a good pre-workout meal, then I have more energy to run on. My blood sugar is in a more stable state, and I find that I actually get better workouts. So that's another strategy you can use to help maximize your strength when training for fat loss. In fact, I would actually recommend pre-workout nutrition over post-workout nutrition. Like, a lot of times people always talk about the post-workout nutrition, that post-workout window. Hey, always refuel, refeed, all this type of thing. Make sure you get your fast digesting carbs after you work out, blah, blah, blah. Well, after the workout, like, the workout is already said and done. Like, you're better off having the nutrition in your system before you work out so you can actually use it to fuel the workout itself versus trying to work out on empty and then thinking of refilling it afterwards. So I would much rather you focus on pre-workout nutrition, not the post-workout nutrition. And the cool thing about it is if you have the pre-workout nutrition, that's still being digested and released into your system long after the workout is over. Like, it takes hours for your body to digest and utilize food. So if you have a good pre-workout meal, not only is that going to fuel the workout, but it's also going to be there releasing after the workout as well. So you get more benefit from a nutritional point of view from a pre-workout meal than you will from a post-workout meal. So that's another strategy you can look into as well. And of course, if you do have any specific questions or you need some help with that, feel free to reach out to me. Shoot me an email, leeh@leehayward.com, and we can chat. And when this replay is posted up, I'll put my details, my email and all that below, or you can friend me up over on Facebook and we can chat through there as well. All right, another question. So what I'm doing is I'm doing my video chat on my phone, and I'm using my wife's phone to answer, to get the Q&A from yesterday. All right, so that's Neil. Oh no, sorry, that was AJ's question. Neil's got a question. Says, Lee, I won't be joining your Q&A tomorrow, so I'll post my question here instead. So I guess you'll be catching the replay. So what are your thoughts about a ganglion cyst? I currently have one right now. It's been there for a while. On rare occasions, it's painful, but most of the time it's not. Have you ever gotten this before? And if you do, how do you deal with it? I've never had one before, so I'm not the best person to really answer this. All right. Basically, it's like usually you get them along your hands or your wrists or somewhere. It's like these weird cysts, like these just growths that you get. And that's actually a lie. I did have one a while back. It was very mild. Like I had this weird kind of growth on my wrist, but it was very small and it actually went away on its own. So that was probably the start of a ganglion cyst, or kind of appears to be anyway, when I was like Google searching, like, what the hell is that little lump there? But it didn't really, other than looking weird, it didn't really cause any pain or aggravation, and it did heal up on its own. So I don't really have any specific strategies because I never had one that was serious enough that caused any problems for me. So I wish I could be more assistance with that question, but you'd be probably better off just doing some Googling on your own. I'm sure there's other videos or articles or blog posts. And if not, then talk to a doctor or a physiotherapist. Hopefully they'll definitely, a good physiotherapist should be able to point you in the right direction to some strategies for that. And just got a question. It says, my dad says bodybuilders are no good at physical work. He's had a ton of them working with him doing manual labor, and he says for some reason they're only good in the gym, and when doing manual work they tire out faster than other workers he's had before. As soon as they step foot in the gym, as soon as they step foot out of those gym doors, they're screwed. You know what? There's some truth to that. And I remember even reading, I got a book home. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger's biography book, right? His big, thick, meaty book, like about the life of Arnold. And Arnold actually talked about that in his book, about how lazy bodybuilders are when it comes to real world physical work. Like, yeah, they go to the gym and they train hard in the gym, but then once they're outside the gym, they don't want to do jack shit. Right? So there's actually some truth to that. And there's another thing that you got to look at too, is the type of work. Like lifting weights in the gym versus real world physical labor are two totally different exercises, two totally forms of body stimulation, and it's different. It's almost like trying to compare someone and say, hey, you're a really good basketball player, how come you suck at soccer? Right? Like two of these they're both team sports. They both have, two teams, they both have a ball, you're both are playing, you're both trying to score the most goals. Like why are you really good at basketball but you suck at soccer, or vice versa? Like, even though there's a lot of similarities, they're both playing sports, they're two totally different sports, right? So just because someone's a great basketball player doesn't mean they're going to be a great soccer player, and vice versa. So just because somebody can go in the gym and lift weights doesn't mean that he's going to be able to go out and do construction or, landscaping or whatever, working in the woods, in a sawmill, cutting wood, or, just because somebody's good at one thing doesn't mean they're going to be good at something else. And that applies in bodybuilding a lot of times, because bodybuilders, they focus on the exercises that they're doing in the gym, which are very specific exercises. And the thing you got to look at with bodybuilders is they do a set, right? They do an exercise, they do a set, and then they rest for a couple minutes or more. Whereas people who are doing physical work, they're doing lower intensity but much higher volume, and there's no breaks in between. It's not like, I pick up I carry a load of bricks, across the construction site, and then I'm going to sit down for 3 minutes and take a rest in between. No, like, you're constantly working all the time. And the type of work that you do is very repetitive. A lot of times it's a lot of hand and you're working with your hands, right? It's not specific isolation exercises. It's total body. It's moving, it's carrying, it's lifting. There's a lot more work capacity and functional strength. Like, this is where the term functional strength comes about. And just because somebody is trained in bodybuilding and like doing 3 sets of 10 of an exercise and resting 2 to 3 minutes in between each set, like, that doesn't always carry over to making someone productive when it comes to physical labor or quote unquote functional strength. So I can relate to where your dad's coming from with saying bodybuilders are not the best when it comes to physical work, because it's a different form of physical training. And a lot of times just because somebody's strong, can bench press 300 pounds doesn't mean he's going to be able to go and keep up and do a day's work, construction or physical labor or whatever. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. And I noticed this myself, like, because when I was in bodybuilding, especially in my early days, I mean, I thought I was in really good shape, right? Because I'm working out. I've been working out for a couple of years, right? I thought I was all full of piss and vinegar and I was in really good shape because I was doing that. And then I remember my first summer job that I ever had when I was a teenager. It was working with my friend's dad, who had a construction company. And my friend was nowhere near as strong as I am in the gym, bench pressing and squatting and curling and all that kind of crap. But then when we got out on the construction site and we actually started doing real work, I couldn't even keep up with him initially. And it took me all summer to build up my strength and work capacity to the point where I could keep up with him, because he's been doing this kind of stuff with his dad for a long time. He was much better conditioned for real world activity than I was. So if you don't train for a specific type of activity, you're not going to be good at it. So it doesn't mean that bodybuilders can't do physical labor. It's just that they got to train for it the same as anybody else, or they got to prepare themselves for it. All right, what else we got there? What age did you start training your legs in the gym? That's from Tato. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Tato. Well, the first time I didn't join a gym until my 8 years into training. I trained at my home gym, basement home gym, for my first 8 years, and then I joined a commercial gym after that. But I started leg training right from the start. I wasn't one of these guys who trained chest and biceps for 5 years before I ever did legs. I remember I started working out with my dad back in the day, and my dad used to work out before I was born, right? So I mean, after I came along and that, so he had a decent base, like better than average, if you will. And that was one of the things that we focused on, is we did total body workouts right from the get-go, and total body included leg training. So we, right from my first ever structured workout, we implemented leg training right from the get-go. So that was part of the foundation right from the start. Chris is joining, or Chris posted a question yesterday, I should say. He's asking if I still recommend Built Bars as the best protein bar. I recommend the Built Bars. I mean, I've actually made several videos that were sponsored by Built Bars, and we had a promotion going on there last year or the year before. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was a little while back. And I do recommend Built Bars. They're a great protein bar. I mean, if you have access to them, by all means get them, or if you order them online. But are they the quote-unquote best protein bar? There's a lot of good protein bars. I mean, I'm going to list off some of my personal favorites. One, obviously, I like Built Bars because they're high in protein, they're low in sugar. That's a big one, because a lot of protein bars out there are technically sugar bars. There's more sugar than there is protein. Like, even though it says protein on the box and protein bar on the label and all that kind of stuff, when you look at the nutritional profile, a lot of times there's more sugar than there is protein. So if there's more of something, then that should be the dominant. It should be called a sugar bar, not a protein bar, right? Like, it makes sense, right? But that's what I liked about the Built bars, is they had actually more protein than they did sugar. So it was a true protein bar, right? Protein was the dominant macronutrient in the bar. Other ones that are really good, Quest makes good protein bars because, again, high in protein, low in sugar, low in carbohydrates. It's a good bar. Even Kirkland, Costco got some good ones. It's kind of like a Quest bar knockoff, if you will. It's like Kirkland's version. It's not quite as good as Quest bars, but they're still pretty darn good, and they're kind of in that similar protein range where the protein is the dominant macronutrient, higher in protein than it is in sugar. So that's another good one. What other ones do I have? Like, you got to really, like, there's a lot of protein bars hitting the market, but those are some of my favorites because I do get the Quest bars, I do get the Built bars, I do get the Kirkland ones from time to time. But you want to look at the label and make sure that it has more protein than sugar, right? If it has more sugar than protein, then I'm not saying you can't eat it, but realize what it is. It's not a true protein bar, it's a sugar bar. Now, with that being said, there's a time and a place when you do want a sugar bar. Like if you're trying to replenish glycogen stores, or you're doing like long distance endurance activities where you need to top up your sugar and you want more carbohydrates than simple digesting carbohydrates like sugar and energy bars and stuff like that can be a good option. And I do utilize them when I go for long bicycle rides. Like when I go for long bike rides, one of my favorite bars that I'll have is Cliff bars. But Cliff bars are technically not protein bars. Even though they do have some protein in them, the dominant macronutrient is carbohydrate. So it's carbohydrate, there's protein, and there is some fat, but most of it is coming from carbohydrate. And I find that that's good for long endurance because you want to be able to keep your glycogen levels topped up and prevent that low blood sugar crash. So it all depends on what it is you're training for and what you're actually using the bar for, right? If you're using it for a protein bar, then go get a protein bar. If you're using it for an energy bar or carbohydrate or something like that, then get the appropriate bar for what it is that you're doing. YT is joining in. He says, I'm going on vacation to Cancun next week. He says, all paid resort with all you can eat restaurants every day. So one of these all-inclusive resorts. Wants to know some strategies to reduce the amount of damage done besides just filling up on protein and veggies before each meal. All right, great question. First off, most of these all-inclusive resorts vacations, they're usually about a week, right? Like most people that I know who go on these usually go for a week. So it's not terrible. Like even if you went there and you just indulged for a week, it's not going to really make or break. And yes, you would probably gain some weight, but a lot of that's just going to be water weight and bloat and everything else. But if you want to minimize the damage done, this is what I would recommend. One, exercise every single day while you're down there. Like if you have access to a gym on the resort, take advantage of it. Get in a weight training workout, get in some cardio, whether that's walking on the beach, swimming, taking advantage of whatever kind of activities that they got there that you can do. You know, if you can rent bicycles, go rent a bicycle and go for a ride. If they offer like tours and whatever, like whether it's sightseeing or hiking or whatever, like take advantage of it. Like get outside and move. The more movement you do, the more calories you burn, the better. So exercise every day with weight training and some sort of cardio, whether that's structured cardio or whether that's just moving, walking, getting out on your feet, right? Stuff like that. Playing with the kids, anything, like just get your ass moving. The more movement, the better. That's going to dramatically increase your calorie expenditure, which is going to help to counterbalance some of that calorie intake. With your meals, obviously you mentioned protein and veggies. Like that's what you want to focus on. Like whenever I go to a buffet, or even for that matter, whenever I have a meal, I always focus on filling up on protein and veggies. So I usually start with a large garden salad first, and like that's my filler food because when you start your meal, you're hungry and you just want to eat, right? You want to kind of get that eating satiation and pre-fill your belly. So I find if you fill up with the veggies first, that helps to take the edge off your hunger. And then if you do, eating other stuff afterwards, even if it's other not so good food, just because you pre-filled the belly with veggies first, you're not going to eat as much afterwards. So that's huge, right? Another one that makes a big difference: alcohol consumption. Because on these resorts, all you can eat, and it's usually all you can drink. Alcohol can be the killer, because with alcohol, when you consume alcohol, it literally suppresses your body's ability to burn fat. So when you have alcohol in your system, you drink alcohol, that takes priority over everything else. So nothing gets burned. You're not going to burn body fat. You're not even going to properly digest the food you eat until that alcohol gets metabolized to zero blood alcohol. So when there's alcohol in your system, that takes priority over everything else, and that's got to get metabolized first. So that's where the whole beer belly comes in, is because that really hinders fat burning. Not only hindering the fat burning, but it also lowers your inhibitions. Because when most people drink, they tend not to make the best food choices, right? Like, just think of people who go out and have a few beers with their buddies, or they go out and have a night drinking or whatever. Like, are they going out for a salad and a grilled chicken breast after a night of drinking? No, right? They want pub grub. They want pizza. They want to go through the McDonald's drive-through, right? They want whatever, greasy crap, chips and stuff like that. Like, you don't eat healthy when you're half in the bag drunk, right? Like, no, it doesn't happen. So alcohol lowers your inhibitions and it makes you choose poor food choices. So that's another big one for alcohol. So the combination of the suppressed fat burning plus the lowered inhibitions and the poor food choices, is it any wonder why people get fat when they drink, right? I mean, it's the beer belly thing, right? That's a big one. Minimize your alcohol consumption. Personally, I don't drink, right? So I mean, that's not an issue for me. But if you do, then options like non-alcoholic beer, that can be a good one, especially if you're a beer drinker. Like, swap your regular beer for non-alcoholic beer. I mean, you still get the same satisfaction of enjoying a cold beer without the alcoholic drawbacks, right? So that's another one. Another thing with alcohol too is it's very calorie dense, right? It's the second most calorie dense food substance, and I use food substance loosely because alcohol is technically not a food in my opinion, but it's 7 calories per gram, right? Fat's 9 calories per gram, alcohol 7 calories per gram, protein and carbs are 4 calories per gram. So it's very calorie dense, in addition to suppressing fat burning. So minimizing your alcohol consumption will go a long way. So that's what I would do if I was going on an all-inclusive, all-you-can-eat, all-you-can-drink resort vacation. I would make sure to exercise every day. Ideally, I would do a weight training workout, and then I would be doing some sort of cardio or other activity throughout the day, whether that was structured or just out having fun. Protein and veggies with each meal, which you've already mentioned there. And minimizing alcohol consumption or avoiding it altogether and having non-alcoholic options instead. And with that being said, 0 calorie drinks all around. Like, a lot of times when you're at these resorts, you might have options for fruity drinks and stuff like that, and fruit juices and all that kind of stuff, and fruit smoothies and all that. Don't drink your calories, eat your calories, right? So 0 calorie drinks will go a long way as well, because when you drink your calories, even if there's non-alcoholic drinks, they can still add up to a lot of calories. Like, you're drinking fruit juices and smoothies and stuff like that, that can add up, and you don't get a lot of eating satiation for the calories consumed. So I would avoid liquid calories at all costs as well. And I think if you did that, you should be able to come through your vacation with minimal damage done. All right, so that was all the questions that came through from yesterday. Now I'm going to quickly just skim through our chat window there and see what are some coming through there now. Because I know we have several people joining in, so I'm not going to be able to answer them all because I have to clue it up soon, get home before it gets dark. We're still a couple hours drive away from home. And Trish and Harvey and Harvey's cousin and a few relatives are here, all visiting Nanny's house. All right. We have home. I can't even see that. I got to pull this forward. Horn frog. There we go. The text on my phone is very small, right? In case you're wondering. Horned Frog says, I normally do shrugs on back day. I'm thinking about doing trap bar shrugs on leg day. Right, have trap bar deadlift. I guess he means right after trap bar deadlift. What are your thoughts? You know what? Don't get hung up on back day, leg day, chest day. Just work your muscle groups. Like, I don't have a chest day, back day, leg day. I do total body workouts, right? Like, there's no rule saying, hey, I'm only allowed to work this muscle group on this day, and I'm not allowed to pair this muscle group on another day. Like, let go of the rules. If you want to do your traps on your back day, do your traps on your back day. Like, it doesn't matter. As long as you're working the muscles and you're working them consistently and you're doing so in a progressive overload fashion, it's still going to work, right? Don't get hung up on these artificial rules that people make up saying, oh, it's leg day, so I'm only allowed to do leg exercises, or it's back day and I'm only allowed to do back exercises, or no, you can do whatever frick you want to do. So I do total body workouts, right? That's what I've been doing for the past several years, and it works, and I enjoy it. We got Gabriel joining in. Says, sorry, again, I got to pull this forward, or I need stronger glasses, one or the other. I'm considering going back to full body split from a push-pull leg due to my kids, 9-to-5 job, etc., which are quite energy consuming. Is this a good idea? Because I'm getting pretty good results, but I'm getting burnt out. Yes, it's a good idea. And I'm going to I kind of touched on this already, but I'm just going to share why I'm such a fan of total body workouts. One, you're hitting all your major muscle groups every time you work out. So let's say you get really busy, right? And you can only work out a couple times a week. Or let's say you get super bogged down, super busy, and you only hit the gym once a week. Well, you still hit all your major muscle groups once that week, with the total body workout. Granted, it wasn't huge, but you still hit all your muscle groups. Now, if you were doing a push-pull legs or some sort of body part split and you only went to the gym once, then you're only hitting certain muscle groups and then you're neglecting a lot of others. So that's one of the benefits of total body, is for people who have very busy schedules and you may not be 100% consistent, you can still hit all your major muscle groups frequently. Like if you get 2 or 3 total body workouts a week, you're still hitting all your major muscle groups 2 to 3 times a week, which is enough to make progress. So that's one thing that's a huge plus. Another huge plus is it doesn't destroy the muscle groups. Like when you go in there and you have chest day and you do 20 sets of chest, or you have leg day and you do 20 sets of legs or more, right? Like you annihilate the muscle, right? You only need to stimulate the muscle. You don't need to destroy it. You don't need to annihilate it. And this is, a lot of people get this screwed up because they think, like, if I'm not painfully sore the next day, then I didn't do a good job. You don't have to get painfully sore. Like, it's okay to just stimulate it, let it rest, recover, grow, stimulate it, let it rest, recover, grow. Like, you don't have to go in there and feel like you've injured yourself the next day. So these total body workouts allow you to do a little bit of exercise, rest, recover, grow, and then go in there, do a little bit of exercise, rest, recover, grow, and helps keep that process going. And it's much more enjoyable and it's much more sustainable. Like, you don't get the painful, delayed onset muscle soreness, reduce risk of injury, and it's just a more practical way to train. And the cool thing is you don't feel beat up, right? So it's a nice way to go about it. Another thing that's convenient about it as well, I mean, when you're doing those total body workouts, is it's just fits in with your schedule. So like, you don't have to have like Mondays chest day, Tuesdays back day, Wednesdays. Like, if your schedule is all over the place and you happen to miss a workout, or you get distracted or whatever, something happens, holidays, work, sickness, and you miss a workout, just pick up where you left off the next day. And I mean, that applies for pretty much any workout. But if you're doing total body, then it's not like it's going to throw off your whole week or your whole routine, right? Because you just pick up where you left off the next day and just keep moving forward. And that's what I do. And I find that those reasons alone, that's why I love total body workouts. And I've been doing them now for the last, well, since I started my whole muscle after 40 journey. And for me, that started back when I was 38 years old. So for the last 5+ years or 6 years or whatever, I mean, I've been doing that. And I find that that's really allowed me to sustain a decent level of fitness without this extreme, yo-yo dieting and bouncing up and down and getting off track. I found it's really helped me to stay consistent. Because before this, I was kind of like this all or nothing trap, where it's like it had to be perfect, 6 days a week, blah, 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 100% all in. And if I couldn't do it perfect 6 days a week, all in, it's like, screw it. What's the point of doing anything at all? Whereas I don't have that pressure on myself anymore. It just has to be good enough, but good enough consistently. And that's what total body workouts are. They're good enough, but they're good enough consistently. What else we got there? Another question from William. He says, do you still recommend taking a half a teaspoon of salt before working out? Okay, I want to address that. I made a video a while back talking about sodium as a great pre-workout energy booster. And the reason for that is because sodium helps with so many functions in the body, but it helps with muscle contractions. Like if you have low sodium, you're going to feel flat, you're going to feel weak, you're going to feel depleted, you're not going to be able to get a good pump. Like you need sodium. Sodium is electrolyte, is one the major electrolyte in your body. You need that for function and muscle contractions. It's not the bad guy that the doctors and the mainstream media make it out to be. Right? You need sodium, right? In fact, I don't think, it's the problem is too much sodium. I think it's not enough water consumption. Because if you're drinking enough water, it doesn't matter how much sodium you're eating, because your body will utilize what it needs and flush out the rest. Right. So like I'm a big advocate of fairly high sodium. I mean, by mainstream media and doctor recommendation standards and the RDA food label standards, I consume a very high sodium diet. Like I purposely add salt to all my food, and I don't shy away from sodium. Like I'll have soy sauce or mustard and high sodium and barbecue sauces and all that kind of stuff. Like I don't shy away from sodium because I need it. Where I'm sweating a lot, working out a lot, drinking a lot of water, I'm flushing a lot of sodium. I'm losing a lot of sodium. So I need to replenish it through my food. And I made a video a while back talking about this, and a strategy that I very often use, especially when I know I'm going to be sweating a lot, is I will purposely have sodium, i.e. salt, before the workout. So sometimes it's just like ripping open a little salt packet, those little fast food salt packets that you get, or, in the restaurants or fast food joints, whatever. I usually go into a restaurant or somewhere and I'll grab a handful of those and put them in like a Ziploc bag and throw them in my gym bag, or even when I go for bike rides, I take some with me, because if I start to cramp up and I suffer the effects of low sodium, then I'll just rip open one of those, chase it down with a mouthful of water. And it's a great way to top up your sodium, right? To prevent muscle cramps and electrolyte imbalances. But sometimes I'll do that before training when I know I'm going to be sweating a lot. And I showed a video where I took a salt shaker and spoon, and a lot of people thought I was having a full spoonful of salt. But all I did is I took the salt shaker and I shaked a little bit of salt onto the spoon. So it's basically like the amount of salt that you would put if you were trying to salt your food for taste. Like it was a few shakes of salt on a spoon. It wasn't a full heaping spoonful of salt. And a lot of people really got confused because they seen the spoon and they seen the salt and they said, oh, you must have a heaping spoonful of salt. Like that's overkill. Like that's 5 or 10 grams of salt, depending on the size of spoon you're using. I literally had a spoon and I just shook a few shakes of salt onto the spoon, and then I dumped it in my mouth and chased it down with water. Right? About the same as you would get in one of those little tiny salt packets that you get at the restaurants, right? Like that's about how much salt that I would recommend at a time. And for most guys, that's more than enough in any single serving to meet your sodium salt needs for a training session. So I got to clarify that. But yeah, I still do that and I still recommend it. And I do it, especially in the summertime when I'm sweating more. But even in the wintertime, if I'm sweating a lot, I'm still going to do it, year round. But definitely if you're going to be sweating a lot more than usual, definitely take in the sodium. But it's not a freaking spoonful of salt. It's just a few shakes of salt on a spoon, or however you want to consume it. We have Amis joining in. He says EAAs or EAAs versus BCAAs for intra-workout. I'm a fan of the essential amino acids, the EAAs, and the reason for that is because it has all the essential amino acids that your body needs. Now, with that being said, you can still get progress and results with a branch chain amino acid supplement. There's nothing wrong with that. But the essential amino acids has all the branch chain amino acids plus all the other essential amino acids that your body can't manufacture on its own. So if you're looking for a more complete amino acid supplement, go with the EAAs. Now, if you've currently got a container of BCAAs at home, like don't freak out and say, oh my God, I got to throw that in the garbage. Like, use it up. And then when you go buy some more, get essential amino acids the next time. All right. That's it. Thomas is joining in. So I'm wondering, when you go for a one rep max bench press, do you rest the barbell on your chest for a second before you lift it up again, or can you just touch the bar off your chest? First off, I don't do one rep max bench presses. I haven't done one in, I can't remember when. Well over a decade, literally. I mean, my powerlifting days are done and over with. I haven't done one rep max anything in a long, long time. But with that being said, it all depends. Like, even powerlifters would have their competition one rep max, and they would have their gym one rep max. And the gym one rep max a lot of times is your touch and go, right? Like, even if it's a light bounce off the chest, a lot of times, you see that. But in a competition, if it's going to count, you have to pause the barbell on your chest. And that can be a bit loose, the definition for that. But what I mean by pause the bar is you have to maintain control. Like, you can't bounce it or rebound it off your chest, and you have to be able to control it at all times. So bring it down under control, momentarily pause it for a moment, and then press it up under control. And so, yeah, you basically want to maintain control over the weight at all times for it to legitimately count, not just using momentum and heaving and jerking to power the weight up. Right? So I would recommend the pause, but I won't lie and say that I've never done the touch and go, because I certainly have. It's just you are at a higher risk of injury when you're lifting more weight and doing so in explosive fashion in that touch and go where you're relying on momentum. You're more likely to pull, tear, or strain something when you're doing the touch and go, I think, versus if you were using a little bit lighter, lifting within your means, and you're actually maintaining control over the weight at all times. Okay. What else we got there? Scrolling through. See if there's any other questions here. I'm not going to be able to cover them all here because I have to clue it up very soon, because it's getting late here and I've got a couple-hour drive to get back home. How would you recommend to structure a training as we reach 50 and beyond, especially if we want to protect our joints and sustain working out for a long time? What I would recommend, Mike, if you haven't already done so, this is a question from Mike, download a copy of my Ripped After 40 PDF. It's a free ebook that I have. You can download it right on my website at leehayward.com. Just go over there. That covers, how I went about changing my training and mindset after 40. And the same would apply for you, in your 50s and beyond as well. And the biggest thing, like the core principles apply to everybody of all ages. Like, it's still training and nutrition and lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't change regardless if you're a teenager or if you're 70, right? It's the same core principles, but the older you get, the more you have to respect your body. That's the biggest thing. Like, you can't force it. You have to respect it, and you have to nurture it instead of trying to force it. And that's something that I've really learned as I've gotten older and more mature, because a lot of times you see young guys that are in their gym, they're training to failure and beyond, lifting way too heavy, poor form, get, slack with the nutrition and everything else, slack with the recovery, and they're still making progress because they got youth on their side. Like, they're doing a lot of things wrong, but they're still making progress in spite of that, not because of that. Whereas the older you get, you can't get away with a lot of that stuff. Like, if you lift too heavy and you use poor form, a lot of times your joints, tendons, and ligaments are going to let you know, and you're going to suffer an injury or repetitive movement strain, right? If you're slack with the nutrition and you're, going out and eating fast food and binge drinking on the weekends and everything else, like, you're going to get fat and it's going to show. If you go out and have a night, a late night drinking and don't get enough sleep, and then you try to train the next day, it ain't going to happen. Right? Like, you're going to have a shitty workout. Like, you have to respect your body more the older you get. And I go into a lot of detail about, like, how I've actually changed my mindset towards that and my approach as I've, got approached 40 and beyond. Right. And so that's what I would recommend. So head on over to leehayward.com, and it's right up in the top corner. If you're on your mobile device, just scroll down through, and you'll see the link there. It's ripped after 40 PDF free download, and that'll give you a good a good overview of how you should go about modifying your workouts as you get older. Another one here. This one's from Bruce. What are your thoughts on 17 plus year experienced lifters finding a way to fit alcohol into their diet literally almost daily? I mean, the experience has built an indestructible base. I'm not a fan of alcohol. I've already discussed my opinions on alcohol and how it affects the body, so I'm not a fan of it. But like, if you're drinking alcohol every day and you're still in great shape, you're in shape despite that, or in spite of that, not because of it. Like, you have to look at the bigger picture. Like, if you're doing a lot of things right, like you're eating good, you're exercising regularly, you're getting adequate rest and recovery, you've got good genetics, like you got a lot of pieces of the puzzle going for you, and then you have one or two things that are not, then you may still have enough things going for you that you're making progress despite those one or two things that are not. Like, it's like a balancing act. Like, you don't have to be perfect and have everything optimal. You just had to be good enough, but good enough consistently. And as long as you're good enough, but good enough consistently, you can still make it work. And, if you're training consistently, eating good and everything else, but you like to have your drink, I mean, you may be able to still make it work. Now, would I recommend that? No. Do I do it? No. But, to each their own, right? If you're making it work, or you see somebody who does drink and they're still making it work, that's the reason why, is because they've got enough other things that are kind of counterbalancing that, right? It's not saying that the alcohol is helping. I mean, it's still having a hindrance. Like, it's not aiding your progress, right? It definitely isn't. But you may have enough things going for you that you're still making progress despite it. Mike is saying, whenever I bench press, I get a really bad cramp in my lower back while doing the press. It could be a technique issue. It could be an electrolyte imbalance. It could be a bit of both. It could be, some nerve impingements in your back or spine. Like, there's a lot of things that we could unpack there with that. The biggest one that I would really like to know, I mean, I'd like to see you bench press first so I can say if it's a technique issue. But there's a lot of things that could potentially be the issue there, right? One thing that you can do in the meantime is try some different variations. Like, try maybe a chest press machine or something like that, or try doing an incline bench and just see if changing the position, you're still getting that back pain, right? That's something that you can try, because maybe for some reason that the flat bench press, isn't working with your back at the moment. I mean, I'm not saying it's always going to be that way, but if a certain exercise was causing me any pain or discomfort, the simple solution is just try and find a different exercise to work the same muscle groups, right? And unless you're a competitive powerlifter who has to bench press, then you don't have to bench press, right? You can dumbbell press, you can incline press, you can do a chest press machine, right? Like, there's a lot of other exercises that'll still work the chest, the shoulders, the triceps as the bench press without actually doing a bench press. So if a particular exercise doesn't feel right, causes any pain, discomfort, or whatever, again, you don't have to do it. Like, find another exercise instead. And that's probably what I would do, and just see if that causes any issues, or if you're getting if you're getting the back pain with other exercises, right? If you're not getting any back pain with any other exercise and it's just the bench press, then it could be some sort of technique issue, or it's just for some reason your body just doesn't like the bench press, right? For whatever reason. Right? And again, if a certain exercise doesn't work, doesn't feel right, causes pain or discomfort, you don't have to do it. Choose another movement instead. We have Platinum Gaming. Says, I always try to train in the 4 to 6 range all the time, and I can bench press 225 pounds 15 times. Well, you're obviously not training all the time in the 4 to 6 range if you're doing 215 or 225 for 15. But I'm maxing out at 290. It doesn't add up. Any advice? What you can do for a 1 rep max versus what you can do for repetitions there's no set guideline. Like, that's going to vary from person to person based on your muscle fiber makeup, based on your tendon and ligament strength. There's a lot of variables. Like, yes, you can plug in your 1 rep max into a bench press online calculator and says, oh, if you can bench press 225 for 15, you should be able to bench press 300 plus for a 1 rep max. That's a ballpark estimate based on a big sample of people. That's not a set in stone, like everybody's going to be this way. Like, some people are more fast twitch dominant, some people are more slow twitch dominant, some people have stronger tendon and ligament strength. There's so many variables that come into play. So if you can bench press 225 pounds for 15 reps and you can bench press 290 pounds for 1 rep, then those are your numbers. Focus on improving those. Don't get hung up and thinking, oh, there's something wrong with me. No, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that's your strength. That's your power curve, if you will. And focus on improving your personal power curve. Don't get hung up and because someone else can bench press more for a single and not get as many reps as you can with the lighter weight. Like, that's just the way you are, right? So focus on improving you, and boom. And another thing I would recommend as well, vary your repetition ranges. Like, there's advantages to training in all the rep ranges. Like, trying to always stay in the 4 to 6 range, like, nobody does that. Like, even top level powerlifters and strongman competitors, they don't always train in the 4 to 6 range. Like, there's certain movements that work better for higher reps, there's certain movements that work better for medium reps, and there's certain movements that work better for low reps. This is way too much to cover in a single YouTube comment chat here. But isolation exercises tend to respond better to higher volume of repetitions. Mid-range compound exercises like your rows and your shoulder presses and things like that, they tend to work best in the maybe in the 10 to 12 rep range. Your big heavy compounds, your benches, your squats, your deadlifts, they tend to work better in that 4 to 6 rep range, right? So again, this is a general guideline. It's not a set in stone rule, right? There's always exceptions, but don't always think that everything has to be trained in 4 to 6 reps, because for certain isolation exercises, you're not going to get enough time under tension or be able to lift. You're not going to be able to get enough muscle activation in that low rep range because they require higher repetitions. Like abdominals, like nobody's going to do 4 to 6 crunches and call it a day, right? Like, you need higher volume of repetitions and more time under tension to hit your abdominals, right? So be flexible with your rep ranges. And if you want some help with this, I actually wrote a blog post and I actually made a video on it as well. But just do a search for Lee Hayward, how many reps to build muscle. If it's over on my website, and I believe I actually have a YouTube video covering this as well. It's an old one that I made several years back, but it goes into this in more detail and actually outlines the specific exercises that work best for each of the different rep ranges. So Lee Hayward, how many reps to build muscle? Do a search for that and you should find that post. What else we got there? You got any books what I can buy? That's from Gerard. You got any books what I can buy? One that I would recommend, and it doesn't even cost you anything. If just download my Ripped After 40 PDF. That's a free download, free ebook over on my website. And there's a whole bunch of free PDFs right over on my website that you can download. Right? There's a bodybuilding nutrition guide. There's a sample workout guide there. Yeah. In fact, if you want, email me, right? Or Facebook message me or whatever. And, I can send you, because I put together a ton of training guides and PDF programs over the years that I can send your way, right? Who else we got there? Current News says, should we have cardio and ab session on a dedicated day instead of doing it on the same day as weights? It depends. You can do it on its own or you can do it as part of a regular workout. It really depends on you, your schedule. Bottom line, as long as it gets done, it's going to work, right? That's really a scheduling issue, not necessarily a productive issue, meaning like, will it work or not? Like, you can make it work regardless. I personally like to do cardio one day and weight training the next. But again, that depends on your schedule and what it is that you're training for, right? Like, if you're only doing short cardio sessions, then you can put them on the same day that you do weight training. If you're doing long cardio sessions, then you might want to do it on their own separate day. And when I say long, like if you're doing 2 hours or more of cardio, you probably want to do it on its own day, versus trying to tack on 2 hours of cardio on top of a gym session. What else we got there? So, okay, a couple people asking the same question about cardio. Again, it really depends on how much cardio you're doing and what it is that you're training for, right? Like if your idea of a cardio workout is I do 20 minutes on the treadmill, like you can throw that in before or after a weight training workout, and that's fine. But if your idea of cardio is you're going to get outside and you're going to, do a 2-hour bike ride, then maybe you want to do that on its own separate day, right? So it depends, right? Like there's not, I hate these people who throw out like one size fits all answers and expect everybody to fit the mold. It depends on the individual, the situation, and what it is they're training for, right? It also depends on your fitness level. Like if you're brand new and just getting started, then maybe 10 minutes of cardio is a cardio workout. But if you're an elite level endurance athlete, maybe like 2 to 3 hours cardio session is a workout. Like it depends. So if you're doing short cardio sessions, 10, 20 minutes or half hour even, like, yeah, you could throw that in along with a weight training workout or do it on the same day. But if you're doing long, intense cardio sessions, like running, swimming, cycling, something like that, then you probably want to do it on its own day, because it's going to be such a big workload that you're not going to be able to pair it up with weight training and cardio all in the same workout or even all in the same day. All right, so it really depends. All right, I actually ended up going for a freaking hour. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I ended up going for an hour video chat anyway. Oh, there we go. Anyway, folks, hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, I appreciate the support and being flexible, working with me here, because I know, like, I normally do these video chats on Friday, but my schedule got all thrown off, and I didn't want to not do it. So I postponed it for a day, and I still got it done. So bottom line, here we are. We're done. Next Friday, we should be back to normal, regular, live at 5 video chat on Fridays. So hopefully I'll see you at the same time next Friday, not on a Saturday. And in the meantime, if you do have any questions or comments, or if you need any help with anything that we discussed here throughout this video chat, feel free to reach out to me. You can send me an email at leeh@leehayward.com, or just head on over to my website at leehayward.com and reach out to me through there. Or if you want, you can Facebook message me. Friend me up over on Facebook. Just do a search for Lee Hayward on Facebook. You should find me, right? It's facebook.com/Lee.Hayward. I got my own name, domain, if you will, on Facebook. Friend me up over on Facebook. And if you do, send me a message, a private message, and just say, hey, I follow your YouTube videos and I wanted to friend you up on Facebook or something like that. Just so I got an idea of who it is that's friending me up, because I don't always accept everybody who friends me up on Facebook, because you can only accept a certain number of people. And if I don't know who the heck somebody is, I may not accept them. But if you let me know that you're a regular watcher of the live video chats and the YouTube videos, then hey, I've been more than happy to friend you up and we can have a chat through Facebook. All right, so have yourself a great day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Take care. Over and out.